Hello, everyone. I am Cody Lee, and I am the author of Cruel and Beautiful, the upcoming novel that is coming out in 10 days. This is our 10-day, the countdown video, you could say. 10 days from now, Cruel and Beautiful will be publicly available for purchase on Amazon. I am so excited about the project. I truly am, because I think this is the project, or one of the projects, where I really did feel as if I was approaching the point where I could show it off to the public, right? This is a book that I worked on throughout all of a little bit of what was it? Last year? It was last year, wasn't it? Wow, was it last year? No, it was the year before that. Wow, it's been an entire year. 2018. It was a novel I started around the midpoint of that year. I had just come off my the first novel I had written that year, American Ninja, which took me about 3 months to get through. I finished that, and I wasn't quite happy with it. It wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. I was kind of struggling with the whole sort of the mainstream publication, I should say. American Ninja was conceptualized as a Harry Potter like lengthy young adult series, and I think my ideas were a bit too grand for that. To put it very simply, American Ninja was finished, and I felt like I couldn't lengthen it because of how I was required to have it only be 90,000 words long, because that's the limit of young adult novels, or debut novels, I should say. You can't really publish books longer than that because it's seen by the industry as too much of a risk. So I decided to put that one on the back burner for a while and work on a new project, Cruel and Beautiful, which was initially sort of influenced by this idea that Shinji from Evangelion is a little bitch. Yes, you heard it here, folks. Shinji from Evangelion is a little bitch. There is no reason that Shinji should not have been able to handle the entire situation. Like, there's nothing about Shinji's situation that's overwhelming or ridiculous. Like, how is it that he can't even talk to a girl? Okay? Like, Shinji's a character that doesn't quite hit the mark that they're trying to hit. Like, they're trying to portray this character as being, like, super overwhelmed by the situation, as being sort of, like, completely over his head and anything. Like, he's very shy, he doesn't know what to do, and it doesn't really work. Like, when you get right down to it, like, Shinji isn't likable. Like, you always have this impression that if Shinji wasn't such a bitch, he would be able to handle everything in Evangelion, and not just the angels. The thing that really got me about this, the thing that really struck out to me, is that there is no reason that Shinji should not have been seriously pursuing Asuka as a love interest. And I keep bringing... It's kind of a joke among Evangelion fans about what, like, Shinji would be like if he were a Chad, if he was, like, going after these two women, right, Rei and Asuka, and how he would, like, fight the angels and stuff like that. And it's sort of like that sort of line of thinking led me down this path of creating this concept of this young man torn between these two supernatural forces. I came up with the monster fighting aesthetic, right? And I came up with this idea of this boy being in love with this immortal evil vampire who eventually, through a series of events, decides that she wants to keep him around and sort of caters to his interests and maybe for her own purposes. Definitely for her own purposes. It's definitely rather different than Evangelion. I think you'll notice this in my work, is that I tend to deviate quite a lot from the material that I derive inspiration from. Other than maybe the whole theme of just having these three characters, having a rather useless male protagonist, they're not really all that similar, or rather useless. They're not really all that similar when you get right down to it. I focus a lot more on the world and the situation and the fighting and the relationships between the characters, and it was so much fun to write. It really was, because I do think my vampire, Amaris Yew, is quite a bit different than other vampire characters like her, or other female characters in general, in Western literature, because she was directly influenced by my experiences with Bayonetta and over-sexualizing a character, in which there's this weird mindset in Western culture right now where sexualizing a female character is somehow seen as exploitive and dirty and should never ever be done under any circumstances. But Bayonetta is such an interesting character because she defies that sort of mindset and became popular in her own right. And so Amaris Yew was is that similar sort of over-sexualized, sort of overtly sultry woman who is willing to pander to all sorts of sexual things. It's in order to sort of manipulate Mike in order to do what she wants. That's kind of the aspect here, is that using sexuality as a manipulative tool, essentially. This novel is essentially about female on male abuse, or sort of manipulation, is probably a better way to term it, rather than abuse. That was kind of how the novel was conceptualized, is that what would a female on male abusive relationship look like? And it is, because Amaris puts him in all of these dangerous situations in order for her own gain, because the only thing that makes this guy a target for her enemies is that she is using him. That's the only thing, and it keeps getting worse from there, and eventually a vampire hunter gets involved. Our protagonist, our hero, Salil, who is this very calm, collected, beautiful young lady who really, really hates vampires, and it's so interesting. It was so much fun, just coming up with this concept and just coming up with all these monsters for them to fight, and sort of different situations they can get into, and the ending. It was all around a really enjoyable experience. I found it very, very fun to write, and when all was said and done, I had a novel. I didn't have any real problem with it. Sure, I think it could have been better. I think it could have been longer. Again, this was one of the ones that was originally written to be mainstream. So I did try to go along with the mainstream mindset when it comes along with it to a certain extent. So yeah, it is not quite as long as I would have wanted it to be. Originally, honestly, it probably should have been I don't know, another 30,000 words long. I'm not sure how long I would have made it. I still had plenty of ideas, and I would have loved to flesh out this setting and world more, but and the relationships with the characters more, especially. But as it stands, like looking at the final product now, like it's quite different than how I originally imagined it to be. Like I didn't originally conceive it to be like a sort of Dragon Ball fighting show. Essentially, I didn't really imagine it that. It was supposed to be more about like the dark romance abuse aspect. It's quite different, but I still really, really enjoy it for what it is. I actually just read through it again just now, like about half an hour ago. I read through it, and I was surprised. I had severe issues with the first chapter when I read it last, but now that I've made some minor changes, it's a lot better. I think the entire novel is complete. I think it's ready for publication, and I am so excited to finally be sharing this with you all. It is a project that I'm very eager to share with people, and I'm optimistic that is going to develop a small dedicated fan base. I am just it's rather different than other novels like it. Again, this is the benefit of indie publishing in that like I can sort of do whatever I want with no real restraint. I'm not being told to like scale certain things back or anything like that. Like this is what I want, like creatively. And going forward with other exciting projects, Rabbit Hole is coming along great. That's gonna be great. I don't want to say better than this. It's up to the fans to decide which novel is the best, I think. But I'm really excited about Rabbit Hole. I'm really excited about returning to Earth Alone, or even talking about Earth Alone. I've been thinking about that one a lot. I want to like finish Lightning Ike. I want to finish The Black Castle. The 100-year-old man came up recently on Twitter. Like someone like mentioned that to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I do have that outlined. I am going to do that someday. That one is going to be. That is going to happen, and I have a bunch of other outlines too that I haven't even really thought about lately. Oh, the scary thing. I was so hyped for that, and I haven't thought about it at all since I've outlined it. So yeah, I have a lot of really exciting projects coming up. Like I am so thrilled about the future of my writing career, and it all started with this. This book was written before Eye of the Dragon. I'm only publishing it now because I wasn't self-publishing when I first finished it. But now that it is being published, on Valentine's Day, which is very fitting considering the nature of the story, I think it's going to do very, very well. My goal is to sell more copies than Eye of the Dragon and sort of create a sort of overlap between the two. I would like people to be fans of both. I definitely don't want people to prefer one over the other. I definitely want my fans to be able to read and enjoy both. And I'm very, very excited about what people think of it when they finally get their hands on it this Valentine's Day. February 14th, 10 days from now, 2020, be there. Cruel and Beautiful launches. Check it out in the comments. Not the comments, the description of the video. I will see you all there. Please pre-order, please review, please support me. I am very excited about what the future holds for me, for us, I should say, for the future.